This is Shadi. Today's video is a very fun one to go through, and also old school jujitsu in and of itself is something that is very enjoyable to discuss and see just how hardcore they used to be. Now, a lot of people would say it is outdated, that's why it doesn't exist anymore. Look at their kata. You watch a lot of these Nippon Budokan demonstrations, people think that that's how they practiced. No, you have to understand that when Kano first found the Kodokan and people calling it Kano Ryu or Kano Jujutsu, other schools didn't just disappear. They fought, they sparred, people would storm other people's dojos. If you look at the Metropolitan Police competition, people sparred on the ground for minutes. Nakamura was very known for this. They would get up. All the stuff that you see in the first draft of the Kodokan rule set, the competition, this is geared for judoka between themselves, but other people still went to the ground. The throw didn't mean as much as in judo. Kano wanted it more for education, ethics, and of course safety, all these which we still adhere by. And it's you're gonna see today just how much different it used to be. So we're gonna go through the Jiu-Jitsu of 1913. I'll link it below, as well as my book, The Origins and History of Judo. Now, just quickly, I'm gonna go through some of the things that we know today. Like, look at these: the gripping, the kuzushi, the stance, the ashiwaza, all of the stuff that we know and cherish and know that it works. It used to be just here. I'm not gonna go through the stuff that we know all of it, like the armbar and the collar strangle, all the stuff that we know, but I'm gonna go through some of the crazy stuff bit by bit. So you see, they had throws, they stood up, they sparred. At the same time, they also went to the ground, but clearly they had it way different than we do today. Now here you see in Uchimata again, it's 1913. It's called in this one Uchimata Nage, and you see it clearly from behind. It's a throw that many shared, and you see here the wrist lock. Now this one, I wish it was brighter or there was some type of explanation. A lot of them are just photos. This one is called wrist crusher. So I think they pin them and they do a wrist lock. I'm not entirely sure, but there's tons of finger locks and stuff that Kodokan banned around the year 1902 or at the turn of the century. Now, a lot of you have seen this type of leg entanglement. It still happens till this day, but a lot of people don't know that if you work on spreading the legs too wide while at the same time pushing on the knees, if they are bent, it would create a lot of strain on the knees, while at the same time, if the adductors are weak or stiff, it will also cause a problem for them to tap. And also at the hips, I unintentionally tapped someone with this, so you know it works. Also, ashigarami was banned in 1916 by the Kodokan and in Kodokan judo competitions. So when I say about the rules, I'm talking about kohakushiai, red and white competitions, meaning judoka between themselves. Progressively, they started to eliminate techniques because of the injuries, and also keep in mind, this is something that will snap at the ligament, and I'm sure, surgeries back then and the recovery technology wasn't like today. So a lot of people don't understand this and how it works. And in IBJJF, reaping, this is what they mean by reaping. So here, what happens is that when you, quote, reap and fully extend your leg and pulling on the sleeve, you will create a lot of torsion and pressure on the knee. So it will either sprain, or the MCL at least can snap from this because of how stretched it can become from this position. Now, let's go to more things. Again, from the familiar to the least familiar, that's how I'm going through them. You have this one here called Yubi Zume, meaning toe compression, and you can see it looks like a toe hold because it is, and it's pushing downward, kind of like the straight ankle lock or the foot lock, but in the shape of a toe hold. it's not fully a rotation. You can see in Kawaishi's book, My Method of Judo, this one, but in rotation form. I think it's called Ashi Dori Garami. So the leg grabbing or gripping and entanglement. So because you see the leg entanglement, very similar to the Ude Garami. So, and the one on top is the Tomoe Jime, also found in Kawaishi's book, which kind of also acts as a neck crank. Now let's go more to leg locks. Look at the one below. Let's start with this one. It is called, as you see on the screen, Ashi Yori leg twist, and it is like a heel hook. If you look at how he's pushing with one palm on the heel while the other one is pulling on the heel and blocking it with the other foot or the other leg, which gives it like a shorter lever, and of course you can see what can happen, the torsion on the knee. We are all familiar with heel hooks, but that's one way that you also see in Jiu-Jitsu today in the nogi space. So Ashi Yori is your Japanese equivalent of heel hook. The other one is your straight ankle lock, of course, blocking the hips and leaning backward while extending. Of course, we're all familiar with it. Now, let's start with the crazy stuff bit by bit. The crab, I think they call it in pro wrestling. You can see it here. Now, I can think of a million ways you can get into the one on the bottom left. Maybe someone is in open guard. You can grab them, turn them around, or maybe they turtled, whatever it is, they fell on their side while you threw them, and then you sat on their lower back. There's a million ways I can think of where you can actually get into this position. The one on top is your do jime, or the trunk choke, where you squeeze on the soft tissue scissoring, not a closed guard that is tight. When you're scissoring and your legs are fully extended, it can create a lot of pressure on the internal organs and becomes very hard to breathe. Now, this one is crazy. They call it also the torture rack in other areas of the world. So it's called koshi shigi, so the hip breaker. And you can see the thigh on the lower back resting on the thigh and being pushed by the collar downward, creating an arch in the spine. Again, spine locks were banned fully in the mid-1920s in judo, as well as leg locks. Ashigarami was the first one to be banned around 1916, and because people were finding ways around it. Now, I believe that one of the ways you can get into this hip breaker is from ko sotogake. So you can, instead of just standing or go down with them, you can get on one knee, and then from it you can get into this hip breaker. I don't know how else you can get into that, so if you can think of anything, let me know. How else can you get into this hip breaker position? I can think of ko sotogake. Let me know down below. I would really appreciate it. Now, more crazy stuff. Again, more spine locks. Around the mid-1920s, Kodokan banned them because, how easy it is to get into this position from turtles, from throws, whatever it is. It's incredibly dynamic, from the gripping, etc. That's why one of the first things to be banned was actually finger locks, because judoka are known to commit to their grip. The grip is very important. So I imagine that very tough generation would just reach for the finger, break it in order to break the grip. I would not put that past them at that time. And finally, I want to just look at this for a second. Now you see so many very fit, muscular athletes, some enhanced, some are not. But look at this physique from 1913. Look at the density of the muscles, not just the size. He's obviously slim, but just look at the quality of the muscle. Kind of think of a ballet dancer. They have these very sculpted calves and quads because they're using them and putting a lot of weight on the ankles and tiptoeing and lifting each other. and they have this type of muscle that is very dense, very hard, much different than something that's just big and, you know, without any definition to it. And this one here, it shows that different type of muscle that is just, you know, carved from repetition, carved from heavy lifting. Maybe they lift each other, they lifted, you know, bale sacks, whatever it is. And you can see this type of physique. It's not soft. It's, you know, very much developed. The quads, the glutes, the thickness of the back, all of it. It's absolutely admirable, truly. And you know, for 1913, that's a lot of stuff to look into, from the leg locks, from the throws. And again, this is not even 20% of the book. It's amazing how much stuff it's in there. It's like a judo and today's jujitsu in this one book, plus all that dirty stuff that you see in there. So I highly recommend Jujutsu 1913. You can find it on Amazon easily, translated by Eric Shahan. And if you have anything to add, let me know down below. This was Shadi, and as always, thank you for listening.